For decades, millions of Americans watched Johnny Carson sit behind that desk, calm, effortless, almost untouchable. Celebrities laughed beside him. Audiences adored him. And night after night, he made television look easy. But honestly, there were certain guests Carson seemed to approach differently. And one of them was Robert De Niro. Because behind the cameras, behind the applause, there was always something mysterious about De Niro. He rarely gave much away. He spoke softly, carefully, sometimes awkwardly. And yet somehow, that silence made people even more fascinated by him. Now, at 83 years old, Robert De Niro's rare reflections on Johnny Carson reveal something deeper than old Hollywood nostalgia. They reveal two men who understood fame in completely different ways, yet somehow respected each other immensely. And in many ways, their quiet connection says a lot about an era of entertainment that no longer exists. Long before the fame, before the legendary performances, Robert De Niro was just a quiet kid growing up in New York City. Raised in Manhattan after his parents separated when he was very young, De Niro spent much of his childhood alone, observing people instead of talking to them. But here's what most people don't realize: that habit of observing became the foundation of his entire career. While other young actors chased attention, De Niro disappeared into characters, into behavior, into silence. He studied people constantly, their voices, their movements, their insecurities. And by the late 1960s, after years of struggling through theater work and small film roles, he finally began attracting attention from filmmakers who sensed something unusual about him. Then came the breakthrough that changed everything. In Mean Streets, De Niro delivered a performance so raw and unpredictable that Hollywood suddenly realized a major new talent had arrived. Soon after, his role in The Godfather Part II turned him into a star almost overnight. The performance was haunting, quiet, explosive when necessary. And honestly, audiences had never seen anything quite like him before. Unlike traditional movie stars, De Niro didn't seem interested in charm. He wasn't trying to be glamorous. He wanted authenticity, even if it made people uncomfortable. That intensity eventually became legendary in films like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas. But while his career exploded, another challenge quietly followed him everywhere: public appearances. According to insiders and people who worked in television during that era, De Niro reportedly disliked the performance aspect of celebrity culture. Interviews didn't come naturally to him. Small talk felt forced. Fame itself often seemed to make him uncomfortable. And that's exactly why his appearances on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson became so fascinating. Because Carson had an unusual ability to read people almost instantly. Many believe Johnny Carson understood that De Niro wasn't trying to be difficult or distant. He was simply guarded, careful, deeply private. So instead of forcing energy into the conversation, Carson often allowed silence to breathe naturally. And strangely, those pauses became magnetic television. What makes this story different is that audiences weren't just watching an actor promote movies anymore. They were watching someone quietly struggle with the pressure of being seen. And perhaps Carson recognized that better than anyone. There were moments during interviews when De Niro appeared visibly nervous despite being one of the biggest stars in the world. Other times, he would suddenly laugh unexpectedly, revealing flashes of warmth that audiences rarely saw on screen. Those moments mattered because they humanized him. Behind the scenes, De Niro's commitment to acting reportedly became both admired and feared throughout Hollywood. Directors praised his dedication. Co-stars often described him as intensely focused. Some even believed he disappeared so deeply into roles that separating the character from the man became difficult at times. And honestly, that level of intensity can become isolating. As the years passed, Hollywood changed around him. Fame became louder, faster, more manufactured. Interviews became carefully managed. Public personalities became brands. But De Niro remained largely the same: quiet, observant, elusive. And in many ways, that's why his reflections on Johnny Carson feel emotional now. Because Carson came from a time before celebrity culture became constant performance. There were no viral clips, no social media teams, no perfectly rehearsed authenticity. Just conversation. Real conversation. Carson knew how to make silence feel comfortable on television. And for someone like Robert De Niro, that may have meant more than people realized. Today, both men represent something larger than entertainment history. Carson symbolizes the golden age of late-night television. De Niro represents a generation of actors who transformed filmmaking into something deeply psychological and human. And maybe that's why audiences still revisit those old interviews decades later. Because somewhere inside those quiet exchanges, people sensed something genuine. Not performance. Not branding. Not strategy. Just two men navigating fame in front of millions of viewers, one question at a time. And honestly, perhaps that's what viewers miss most today. The humanity. If you remember watching Johnny Carson or have a favorite Robert De Niro performance, share your thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe for more cinematic Hollywood documentaries uncovering the untold stories behind entertainment's greatest legends.